Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of No Limits. My name is Scott Morgan, Rough Motor City Madmouth. Happy Thursday! I love Thursday nights. I love every night. But when I have an opportunity to fly solo and I get to bring in somebody like a guy like Jeff Goodman, the CEO for TicketSmarter, my goal is to make sure we are all smarter when it comes to going out there and buying tickets. So, as I mentioned on our previews, Jeff and I got in contact on LinkedIn. I saw what he had to represent, and my goal is to make sure that everybody out here has an opportunity to go out there and learn something from these shows. And I think when I have opportunities to interview individuals on their own, or whether we have crew format, it doesn't make any difference. It's all part of the objective. Make sure you get your best opportunity to tune in and learn. But before I get to Jeff, I want to let everybody know that the audio version of No Limits can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. This show is also being broadcast around the world. So I don't care where you are. Tickets can be bought anywhere. This is around the world. Also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. We're getting there too, folks. So please give us a hand to continue to grow. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? I'll give you an easy way to do it. Participate in the chat room. I brought in a lot of people off the chat room, and I have no hesitation to bring in as well. Or if you want to take a different route, topics, South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And my Twitter information is at Tribune South, and our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. And Candy Ebling does an unbelievable job taking care of the website, which Mr. Goodman will be a part of at some point as the relationship continues to go. So with that said, Jeff, now that we got through the particulars, I just want to welcome you to No Limits tonight. Thank you for being on.
Scott, thanks for having me tonight. I'm excited to be a part of your show.
Well, we're really delighted that you're here as well. So, all right, Jeff, why don't you give the audience an overview of yourself and how did you get to finding this business?
Well, my name is Jeff Goodman, and I'm the CEO of TicketSmarter, and co-founder as well. I started in ticketing back in 2010. I was a recruiter prior to that. My undergraduate degree is in economics, actually, from the University of Texas, and I'm an MBA in management information systems. And all that goes in, and previously being a recruiter ends up mix that all together and you end up getting into the live event space. Now, actually, my wife and I started the business as a side business out of our house. Originally, we started out as just ticket brokers, and we ran some private labeled websites that didn't really have any branding to them for a number of years. And then in 2019, launched ticketsmarter.com. And we are a primary and secondary ticketing marketplace. We offer tickets to over 125,000 live events, from concerts, sports, theater, you name it. We have partnerships with hundreds of entities, from the Big Ten to the Pac-12 to ESPN events. We help power primary ticketing for over 55 properties, which includes Pepperdine to UIW to a number of festivals like Country Roots and Country Stampede and you name it. And whether you're looking for any kind of live event ticket, that's what we're all about. We want to make sure fans have a way they're able to go to live events and enjoy events live.
Okay, and we're going to get into a lot of those things later, but I'm glad you gave everybody an overview. But you got in at 29, you had to deal with COVID-19. So was there a dilemma that you had to deal with your staff in terms of COVID-19? I know we talked about that. COVID-19 disrupted everything. And I'm sure it had to affect you a little bit.
Oh my God, it affected, there's a few industries, it obviously affected many industries, but us and the cruising industries, I think, were two of the most affected, where, the cruising industry got completely shut down. Live events were pretty much shut down. Basically on March 12th, our 2020, our revenue dropped 96%. The industry pretty much, well over 90%, whether you were Live Nation or TicketSmarter or AEG, it didn't matter. Our entire business is to bring people together to enjoy a shared experience, and social distancing was not a phrase, it wasn't a thing, and it's basically opposite of what our industry is intended to do. So we scrambled and pivoted, and basically we knew we weren't going to sell anything for a while, and we really started focusing on our branding of TicketSmarter, working on the SEO, the search engine optimization, and we turned our entire staff into content writers for the next 9 months, basically, plus. Even though many of them did not write, they had a understanding of our industry and the content in our industry. So it was very challenging and obviously a very difficult situation, but we were able to persevere and get through. And I think right now people are really excited to be able to go to live events, and especially when there wasn't much going on in 2020 and 2021. 22 was very, very busy for the live event industry. And I think that's what you'll see the rest of 23 and definitely 24 and on.
All right. Well, we have Will Vogel, who's one of our main participants, loves to watch our shows. Thank you for being on, Will. And I'm going to go to his question. But, before I go to Will's question, you talk about the COVID-19 and things were shut down. So are you telling me that you tried to go out there and turn a negative into a positive, knowing that, okay, our hands are tied, we can't do anything, so we have to step back, regroup a little bit, and modify what we're doing, because at some point or another, we know that this thing is going to turn around?
That's exactly it. I mean, we took advantage of the, we're a small business, took advantage of the PPP, and really tried to focus on building up the website so that when things got back to normal, that when people were searching for tickets, they would be able to find TicketSmarter. Obviously, it's a very competitive landscape in our industry, but we felt that was an opportunity to kind of go all in to try to be stronger whenever it ended. And we really didn't know, Scott. Obviously, nobody did. We thought initially maybe it was going to be a few months, and then it was obviously much longer than that for things to really get back to normal. And I think that, even though 22 obviously was much better than 21, I think 23 is shaping up to be a solid year. And I think even then you'll see 24 and 25 be even better. I think there's some analysts that think that things won't truly get back to normal completely until 24 or 25. And obviously the economy and inflation affects things because we're obviously a discretionary income business. We're in live entertainment. So it's that definitely can affect things too.
Can't tell that to Rudy Gobert, who didn't even take this thing seriously, made an idiot out of himself after a post game. Did you see that interview? I mean, how he was just, hitting the microphone as if there was no end to it. I think it was a joke.
I didn't see the interview, but what I recall actually is on March 10th or 11th. I was at we were partnered with the Pac-12, so I was at T-Mobile Arena at the Pac-12 tournament. I'm in Vegas in March every year because we work with the Mountain West and we work with the West Coast Conference and the Big West and of course the Pac-12 as well. And I was at T-Mobile watching a Pac-12 tournament game, and everyone all of a sudden starts looking down at their phones and they said, what's going on? And we see something's going on with Rudy Gobert in Oklahoma. Right. And then we go from that to the next morning at T-Mobile playing the Pac-12 tournament in the morning, then said, we're not sure if we're playing in the afternoon. And I was flying back to Kansas City the next day. My wife and I were to go down to Texas for Conference USA and the American Conference, both of which were partners at the time. And they said, well, wait a minute, don't come. And then they said, okay, you can come. It was myself, my wife, and our son, who's now a freshman at UCLA. And they said, you guys are going to come in, but we're only going to have media and we're going to play the tournaments with no fans. And we thought, well, that'll be strange. And, but we'll go. And then it was a few hours later, nope, we're canceling the tournaments altogether. So that was my experience when you bring up Rudy Gobert's name of how I think of him.
Well, all I can tell you is I don't particularly care for the guy. You don't go out there and try to mock a disease, which unfortunately, I have to admit to you, claim the closest person in my life, my Aunt Judy, who died of COVID-19. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
thanks. And I did her eulogy, and it was a tough act. But you know what? I always honor her memory when I get an opportunity to do it, and I'm glad that we have the opportunity with Rudy Gobert. But we got to get to Will Vogel. We got people watching this stuff. We're not talking to each other here, man. We're talking to people. My goodness, there's no limits. This is you and me, Jeff. All right. With that said, let's go to Will Vogel. Thank you for answering my question. What makes you above and beyond other ticket apps like Ticketmaster, StubHub, Vivid Seats, and others like that? That's a good question too.
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. Will, we are, a primary and secondary marketplace. Of the 48 plus million tickets you'll see, a large majority of them are secondary market tickets. What I will say that makes us stand out from someone like StubHub or Vivid or SeatGeek or even Ticketmaster Resale is that we run a very lean operation, and we do that to pass that savings on to the consumer. So you will find that all in with the service fees and everything, that we end up being considerably cheaper than our competition in most cases. So I think also compared to many of the other sites as well out there, other than what you mentioned, we are definitely a very safe, secure place where you can buy your tickets and use a credit card, or you can use, Android Pay. You can actually pay over time with Affirm or Klarna or Zip or some of those buy now and pay over time features where you can do 4 payments. And I think that's something that makes us stand out. Additionally, we have partnerships with the vfoundation and St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, where we donate from transactions to children's charities. That was when my wife, Heather, and I started this. That was definitely her biggest mission of starting a business, is that we would be able to give back to communities, around the country. And so I think that's something that really stands out. And I think when you're looking for tickets, you need to look at the box office, the actual, rights holder, where you're buying your tickets from, whether it's for the Miami Heat or USF or the Orlando Magic, actually looking at their site, what they have available, and then look at our site, and you can compare the two. And sometimes, we'll be cheaper than face value, and sometimes we'll be more. And then sometimes you're looking for a certain location and it's sold out from the box office, or a certain location you're looking for is not available, and we're the best place to get it. But when you're looking at the secondary market, I think you'll find that we're going to excel.
All right, we have a comment from Joel Ellis. Great guest. So you know what? Let me give you a little bit of information about Ellis, okay? He's the CEO of Sideline Sports, which is a good partner of ours. So
Sure.
What I'm going to tell you right now is him and I are going to be starting a show called The Celebrity and the Journalist. Well, we're going to put him in the celebrity cat seat, and I'm the journalist, okay? So you're going to be one of the guests. That show probably figures to launch in about within a month or so, depending on what we're doing. So Joe is a really good colleague of mine. We work together closely on a lot of projects, and he's the type of guy who I know would love to be on with you. So I'll set up a time for the three of us, because I think you'd be a fascinating guest for that. In addition to your market, we're going to grill you on some of the differences between the two and let you decide which one's which. All right. So just giving our audience a little teaser, giving you a little teaser too, because there's a whole lot more. This is, as Karen Carpenter would say, we've only just begun. And don't expect me to sing the song, folks, because if you ask me to do it, then I will break a Memorex glass, and you don't want to do that. So leave Karen Carpenter. All right, back to Will Vogel, who's on a roll. All right, well, let's continue on with the Will Vogel thing. When you guys first started, did you have a main goal, or did you just set goals along the way? I think it's a pretty interesting question too.
I think really when we first started, actually, we were just looking for something where we could work on for supplemental income, actually. And we started as a traditional ticket broker. We were buying tickets and selling them on, at that time, StubHub and eBay at that time. And we had a young child, and my wife was looking to work from home. And so I was a recruiter working a normal 50 hours a week. And then I would come home and work from 6, 7 o'clock at night till 3 o'clock in the morning. I did that from 2010 till 2012. And finally, the rubber met the road, and I had to go full time. But, I think initially we were really just looking at what, opportunities existed. The really, when we started buying tickets, it was just making sure we could sell everything that we purchased. And we discussed this off air. Our first real big thing that launched us into the ticketing business was the decision. If everyone remembers with LeBron, I came to work the next day, and we're based in Kansas City. And at the time, Sprint Center, now called T-Mobile Center, I recalled that there's the first that they were going to have an exhibition game. And I thought, well, LeBron's first time he's going to wear a Heat jersey will be in Kansas City. And they made such a big deal about the having a show of where he was going to play. I thought, let's go for it. So I looked online. It was already on sale. And usually the exhibition games don't sell that well. But I went ahead and pulled out my Amex and bought like 100 tickets at $70 a piece and charged like $7,000 to my American Express card. And we were off and running, and then had some people that we reached out to via Craigslist that actually came to, and one individual came to meet with me directly and said, can you get me tickets to other things? And I knew I had an American Express card and I could do a pre-sale maybe. And she said she wanted to go see Usher, and I was able to get her front row seats with like a meet and greet, and we were off and running. So, but our goal initially was really just to pick events that we thought we could make money on, and then scale it from there.
Well, we'll go back to Will Vogel. So thank you, Scott and Jeff. I appreciate Scott for always motivating and mentoring me, and Jeff for answering my questions. Let me tell you a little about Will Vogel. He's got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of raw talent. And I believe that he's one of those kinds of guys who's an up-and-comer in my system. My goal here on the network here is not only to do what we do, but try to mentor younger guys so that they can use us as an opportunity where nobody will go out there and say they don't have experience. All they have to do is dedicate themselves like they do. And as long as they do that, then there's always a place for somebody. I want people to use us as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. I needed a chance. All right, let's continue on. You mentioned these earlier, but now we're going to go into more specifics. Okay, let's talk about the fact that these numbers that we're talking about, you talk about the primary and the secondary ticket place where you have over 125,000 live events and 48 million tickets for sale. I mean, God, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think that what people don't realize in many cases is that what happens is that the people that are reselling tickets, in most cases, it depends on the event, but usually anywhere between 80 and 85% of the tickets that are being resold are being sold by professional resellers that do it for a living. Obviously, you have some fan inventory out there when they have season tickets and they can't go to an event. But what happens more often than not is even though fan tickets, they'll work through somebody that does it for a living, so they don't have to worry about setting the price or monitoring it. And there are tools that allow professional resellers to list their tickets on, StubHub and SeatGeek and Vivid and Ticketmaster, as well as TicketSmarter and other sites. So that's why you'll see a lot of the same inventory listed on so many of these marketplaces. And so really the difference is the fan experience on the site, which we find that our site is, extremely easy to use. It's only a couple steps. You're not required to create an account. You can check out as a guest, and you can make a purchase very quickly, and you can use a multitude of payment options. And we keep our fees really low because that's really what I think stands out. Our all-in price tends to be less than our competition. So we try to do that consistently.
Well, you talk about fees, and you brought up a good point. So give the average fan out here an idea what your fee schedule is like, and how does it compare with some of the other people that you're going up against?
So our fees typically all in end up being around 15%, sometimes between 12 and 15, 16%. Sometimes most competitors have a 32% fee on the back end. Now, since a lot of fans are used to seeing, at the moment, they're used to seeing like a discounted price on the front end. So we will sometimes discount like the front end 5% or 7%, and then it'll have a 20% or 18% service fee on the back end. But that all-in price, we're typically in like the 12 to 15% markup range. And again, our competition is typically considerably higher than that.
Okay, this one hits me a little closer to home, and I'll tell you why it does, okay? In the month of April, I covered the Red Wings and the Tampa Bay Lightning up in Tampa. I normally stay at a hotel, which is right near the airport. but there was a young lady by the name of Taylor Swift who made things a little harder for me. And she's been a hot commodity. I know. Like I told you, I had to get a hotel near my alma mater, University of South Florida. Okay, that I'm proud. I'm a proud bull, and a lot of people to get to know me said, "Boy, that was the right nickname for somebody like you being on the air because it's the R." And if you get to know me, I'm a nice bull, and if you don't, well, I'm still nice, but you know how it goes. You know what I'm saying? But just kidding. So, but in all reality, I had to get a hotel, near my alma mater, which is actually in Northwest Tampa. I don't know if you're familiar. Well, I mean, just Northwest Tampa.
Mhm.
And this event was held at Raymond James Stadium,
Right.
which meant that my hotel was near Rocky Point near the airport. So I've got to ask you, how well are you doing with the Taylor Swift thing? I mean, this person here is, I've never seen an individual in a lot of years draw the attention that Taylor Swift has done. And hey, you know what? I had no problem staying near my alma mater. I really love being there. And to me, it was a neat place for me to hang out and check out my old stomping grounds. Anyhow, even though the other reason why I like Rocky Point better is I have friends in Clearwater and it's a little closer there. But hey, I worked out well. I had no problem. But talk about Taylor Swift and how's it working out for you there?
Oh, Taylor Swift has brought a ton of attention to this industry over the last, 6 months to a year, uh, from 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 a number of angles, including legislation that's forthcoming. But basically, and changing actually how Live Nation and Ticketmaster approach a public on sale. The reality is the demand for her tickets has just far exceeded the supply, and Taylor uses what's called a verified fan system, which is something that Ticketmaster put in place over the last couple of years. It's designed to make sure that the fans get the tickets first instead of the resale marketplace. And in general, it is an effective tool that some artists have used, and Taylor used it as well. The problem is the problem occurred in a couple ways. One is the demand was just so crazy for Taylor that even Ticketmaster Live Nation, which is by far the leader in this industry, it crashed. They had attacks, and they just could not handle the amount of volume for people looking for tickets online. And even though Taylor's doing shows that have 50 to 55,000 people in attendance in football stadiums, and doing even 2, 3, 4, 5 shows in a city,
right?
In most of these cities, all cities, it's really the demand is still exceeding the supply, and you have tickets that are $1,500 just to get in the building, and $3,000 per ticket or $2,500 per ticket for a good seat. And it's pretty crazy. Ticketmaster then subsequently, Live Nation changed how they roll out on sales for a high-profile artist. Beyonce, who is very popular in her own right, went on sale after Taylor. And instead of rolling out every city, they rolled out like 10 cities and then did another 10 and then another 10. They did it over a 4-week rolling period. So to make sure that they didn't get the negative publicity and having the website potentially crash, from that type of activity. The other thing that does happen when you do the verified fan is that, of course, it gets the tickets mostly into the fans' hands, but then the tickets that do make it to the secondary market, since it's so limited, it's going to, of course, inflate the prices because, again, It's a supply and demand thing. There's very few tickets now available. You have maybe 1,000 tickets available or 500 tickets available for a stadium that holds 60,000 people, and there's huge demand for those tickets to attend. That's the recipe for what happens. And unless Taylor's going to start doing, 7 to 10 shows per city, and that's probably going to be a challenge for her to do that. And she would be touring, it's just difficult. But unless she adds a lot more dates, there's not really a way to address that. But that has also brought in the legislation piece. Definitely the government has stepped in and said, okay, what do we need to do here to provide more transparency? And I think you are definitely going to see federal legislation this year in a couple of areas. But the biggest thing will be transparency on primary and secondary marketplaces. One, that potentially to say when a artist goes on sale to the public, how many tickets are actually available to the public, and being very transparent on the pricing and the fees. And on the secondary market, very much so with respect to the pricing, that you'll have all-in pricing that it'll show the price of the ticket and the price of the fee, and you don't have to wait to check out, because that's a common practice in our entire industry right now. And StubHub tried to change that a few years ago by themselves, and it really hurt them from a marketing standpoint. So unless the entire industry does it, and I think that's what the industry is looking for, is guidance from the federal government to make that happen. So I do think you'll see legislation, and there are a number of states that already have legislation out there. It's a very interesting industry in that regards.
All right, so let me go back to my question, Will. We're going to get to Lionel Messi shortly, so bear with us. Well, you fall into the GMTA thing that Jeff doesn't know about. Great minds think alike. So you'll be quizzed on that the next time you come on, okay, Jeff? Great minds think alike, GMTA. Well, we'll get to Lionel Messi. So let's come back again. I'm just curious. I don't know if I want to reiterate this event. How has your organization done with the Taylor Swift event? Or events?
I mean, I will say this. I mean, we've done well with the ticket sales that we've had. Obviously, the tickets that we've sold are far, from a quantity standpoint, are far fewer, because there's just not nearly as many. You call it 1,000 tickets to maybe 2,000, but 1,000, 2,000 tickets available per show. They are at very high prices. So when you do make a sale, obviously the service fees on that given sale are pretty high. That being said, you have all of these companies that are competing in paid advertising and paid media, whether it's in social media or paid ads through Google or Bing. And so it's very expensive to go after those keywords and try to get those customers. So it's been okay, but it's not as great as someone might think. Most of the dollars are going back to the artist, which is where they should go.
Okay, well, no, that's good. So what I like, sometimes I'll ask somebody a question and then, ask it again, because there might be certain points that I want to follow up on, and you did exactly what a lot of our fans are going to want to do. All right, let's talk about more events. I know I was really intrigued by what you had to say. I'm going to break down. I'm going to mention all of them, and then I'll let you go ahead and get into more specifics. How does that sound? Okay.
Okay, great.
We're going to talk about Broadway, sports, concerts, theater, obviously New York and Chicago. We had Second City as well. Circus, monster events, trucks, rodeo, NASCAR, which, by the way, you did recently go ahead and sponsor an event in St. Louis. I'm going to get to that in a moment. So I broke down the categories. Give me an overview of what your involvement is with some of the ones I had mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, half the tickets that we sell are typically related to some type of concert, whether it's in pop or rock or country, you name it. So it's whether it's Morgan Wallen or Taylor Swift or Chris Stapleton, you name it. We have it. And typically, once an event is announced, we're going to have inventory listed for sale. We're the exchange where brokers list their tickets, and a lot of times brokers will have relationships with the artist or with the venue itself. Right. So a lot of times there will be tickets on sale, and that's a question that sometimes fans wonder about, and I'll take this time to cover that, is that sometimes fans will wonder why tickets are available in advance. In some cases, they could be a speculative listing, but more so than not, it's a listing that they put up because they know they'll receive specific inventory, whether they have those exact seats for every single show at a given arena or stadium, or they know they'll have access to a certain amount of inventory for an event. So that's why you'll see that sometimes on the secondary market in advance of an actual on sale, or you'll see during a pre-sale time frame where professional resellers are very proactive in getting inventory onto the secondary market. And then sports is definitely probably our number two. And then Broadway type shows, theater is number three. We sell tickets to shows all the way across the country, whether it's Kansas City like the Music Hall, or it's at Kravis or the Strats, or and whether it's Hamilton that's touring, and that was a huge show. It's still very popular, but it was just by far the most popular Broadway show. And then it toured across the country and brought in sold out shows across the country. And then, of course, we do all kinds of other stuff like monster trucks and NASCAR and the Indy 500 just took place. And we do sponsor a lot of events. Like last weekend was the Enjoy Illinois 300 in the St. Louis metro area presented by TicketSmarter. And we do some sponsorship on vehicles as well. We sponsor some of the races for the 78 car for Anthony Alfredo, and did some with David Starr last year in the Xfinity series. Right. And then we do, circus. One of our great partners on the primary side is Garden Brothers Circus. They travel all across the country. They come down to South Florida as well. They have about a 2,000 seat big top. It's they call it Humans Gone Wild, and they were just in Kansas City, and we had an opportunity to go see them. My family did in person, and it's a lot of fun. It's just basically the circus without the animals, and it's incredible some of the things that they do, and it's a lot of fun. It's a $30 ticket for adults and $15 for children. There's some ways you can get free tickets for children, and they've got some VIP ringside seating, but it's a lot of fun, and pretty much anything in live events and live entertainment we try to be a part of, and we want to make sure fans make it to live events, and I think it's something that's important. And the actors, the athletes, they will tell you that during COVID, doing that stuff with virtually or with no fans in the stands was no fun for them. It saps all the energy out of the arena, the stadium, the performance, and so they did what they had to do things virtually to get by and make a living. But all of them will be the first to tell you that experiencing things live is never going to go away.
So tell me how the rodeos work out.
That's a very interesting thing. I did not grow up with rodeo.
Me either.
And we had a relationship with professional bull riders the last few years, and partnerships, they come and go, but I definitely had gained a huge appreciation for what those riders do. Going to a lot of these events in person, we had a title sponsorship, the TicketSmarter Invitational in St. Louis, and then we had in the Unleash the Beast series, which is their senior circuit, and then their junior circuit, and the Velocity series was in Oakland. And you see these guys, these kids are 150 pounds, sometimes less, and they're on a 2,000-pound bull that they're trying to ride for 8 seconds. They are incredible athletes, and a lot of them, they start training down in, whether they're in the U.S. or there's a lot of them that come down from South America, from Brazil and other countries in South America. They'll start at 8, 9, 10 years old training. It's incredible. And you get an appreciation for the bulls as well. It's a very interesting sport. And that's definitely something that's been interesting to me being in this industry. Is I've always been a football and baseball guy, but you learn about so many other sports and industries, whether it's in theater. I've really enjoyed learning a lot about theater, whether it's theater or it's the Metropolitan Opera or Carnegie Hall, and whether it's classical music or learning about, I was never a race car guy, but getting involved with NASCAR or getting involved with drag racing. Right. There's a lot of great live events out there to be able to enjoy. There really are.
Well, I got to tell you, if you're a bull rider, you just better make sure you have a good heating pad, because I'll bet that hurts. I can only imagine. But, in all seriously, funny how we have the bull theme on since I wear my alma mater and they are the Bulls. Wow, talk about incredible segues. Well, we talked about it. So let's talk about NASCAR a little bit. You obviously sponsored the races in St. Louis. Do you plan to sponsor more NASCAR, or would you like to venture off into a lot of other sports? And then to follow this, how did that sponsorship last weekend over in St. Louis work out for you?
Yeah, we work in a few different areas of racing. Obviously, we work with Worldwide Technology Raceway in the St. Louis area, and they're on the Illinois side, on the other side of the river, and they have both an oval and a drag strip. They'll host an IndyCar race at the end of July, and in the end of September, they'll host the NHRA Midwest Nationals in drag racing. And we also sponsor Maple Grove Raceway. It's a drag strip, as well as Texas Motorplex. And then we did sponsor the Houston Raceway, but it recently closed. Some of the dragways are and racetracks that are some of the smaller ones have been having funding issues and have been closing around the country. But so definitely support those in your local cities where you can. The race last weekend was excellent. It was sold out for the second year in a row. Last year was its inaugural season. The track has been open. Curtis Francois and the Francois family has been incredible in bringing that track back. It had been around and it had some issues, and he bought it and has really just put in a lot of money into it. It's an amazing experience. If you're a NASCAR fan and you haven't had an opportunity to go to St. Louis and see a race, or if you're an IndyCar fan, you should definitely make your way there to go see the Bomarito race, the IndyCar race in July, or go to the drag strip later in the fall to check out drag racing. But they had a great event. It was completely sold out on Sunday. They've also added a Confluence Festival, which it was headlined on Sunday by Dierks Bentley. And that's what a lot of these racing events are doing, is they're incorporating not only, the race, but also bringing in musical acts to even further enhance the experience for fans, to attract more fans to come out. Yeah, we definitely would like to participate and sponsor and partner with more race tracks and drag strips, etc. When the opportunity presents themselves.
Yeah, it's amazing how you say it. I have a passion for racing too. I like NASCAR, but the one that really intrigues me a lot is IMSA. I love the 24-hour endurance races. I actually covered my first Rolex 24. That's a bucket list item. So I think once you succeed at covering one, you want to graduate to another one. And so I'm working on it down the road. As we continue to stay in touch, I'll keep you in the loop about which ones I'm going to do. Although I might actually go ahead and send you a video of one with a guy that's covered 89 of them. So
wow.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool stuff. But IMSA is something I really like. NASCAR's okay. I have no problem with it. You have a lot of bigger name drivers, but people, if you really want to learn the idiosyncrasies and the finer points of auto racing, the endurance, Formula One and those kinds of things, you really learn about aerodynamics. The Indy cars are all well and good. The only area I struggle with them is you have those cars, the one wheelers, So whereas with NASCAR, you have, the type of vehicles where everybody drives them all the time, so you get an idea what there are. And I actually did a NASCAR experience last year in Miami Homestead, which was good. As we continue to move forward here, let's talk about your partnerships. Okay, you told us earlier, and now we're going to talk about more detail. You have over 400 partnerships, got ESPN, the Big Ten, Pac-12, and you also indicated 28 bowl games, and you said you would have half of the Division I athletics, if I recall correctly. So what I want to talk about here, as you indicated, Jeff, that, your primary ticketing, you have 60 partnerships. How do you compare with your competitors in the business in terms of those partnerships, and what makes you a good choice to do business? I know we've talked about it before, but I'm talking hard numbers with 60 partnerships as well. So we're narrowing it down from a numerical standpoint with this.
Yeah, I think that, where we stand out is that we have taken kind of a grassroots approach to trying to build the Ticket Smarter brand and get our name out there. Partnering with over 60 minor league baseball clubs, and partnering with ECHL hockey teams, and working with a lot of mid-major Division I schools, as well as working with D2 and D3 and NAIA schools. A lot of those schools that we partner with, there's not a ton of resale tickets on the secondary market, but we're trying to reach those fans so that when they are thinking about buying a ticket to an NBA Finals or a Stanley Cup Finals, or they want to go see Taylor Swift, or they want to go see Messi, which we'll get into with intermiami, that they'll hopefully think of Ticket Smarter as a place to go. And we're continuing to work on our partnerships in the primary space. Obviously, that's something where we're looking to grow. We have really focused on that over the last 12 months. I'll actually be at NACTA, which is a big conference for the National Association of Athletic Directors, and it's a huge collegiate conference with upwards of 5,000 attendees next week in Orlando. Actually, I'll be there early part of next week, and that is really a lot of our focus. But from a fan's perspective, you can feel confident that any artist that you're looking up, you can look on our site. And what we're also really good about, Scott, that stands out when you talk about numbers is not only the pricing, but if you pull up Taylor Swift on our site, or if you pull up, Billy Joel, or if you pull up intermiami CF, and you pull up that page and you scroll down, we provide data and ticket availability very transparently. So you can see the average price, the low price, the high price, how many tickets are available for a given event. We don't hide anything like that. It's very transparent to the fan, so the fan can see what is available. And so we pride ourselves in that regards, and we hope that gives the fan a good experience and a confident experience when they're shopping on TicketSmarter.
Well, it's amazing how you mentioned that, and I was just about to say it, but thanks. And now what I'll do here is reiterate what you just mentioned. I think the thing that I've noticed as we've continued to go ahead and talk, your transparency impresses a daylight out of me. It really does. You got nothing to hide. Everybody knows where they stand, so you're a straight shooter in that respect, okay? And I think that when people look at this broadcast, and I know there's a lot to digest, and hopefully they'll continue to watch it more and more if they feel like they want to get more out of it. These aren't the type of broadcasts which are 10 minutes long. Sometimes they're a little bit longer because there's more information. But this is the type of show, folks, out here that if we're engrossed in entertainment of any kind, especially the bigger events, which is what we've talked about anyhow, this is a good way to make sure you save money and you are able to go where you're able to go. But at least you know what you're getting. And I imagine you probably show the seating charts and things like that. So probably where their tickets are. Is that correct?
We do. You're able to see now in the secondary market. It's pretty commonplace not to show the exact seat number because those seats are being listed on thousands of websites. So that's the reason really for that. But you typically on our site, depending on the venue, but most venues, you're able to see actually a view from your seat, and you're able to select your section and row, and you're guaranteed to get those seats. If not, obviously you'd be given a full refund. But we have a really good track record with making sure that people get what they paid for.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. You talk about the NHL, the NBA playoffs. Right now, they're in season. So have you had very much involvement in both of those?
Oh, definitely. They're definitely something that is in high demand and definitely a high dollar ticket.
Right.
The last 24 hours really has been very much about the world of soccer, though. And that has been something that, and that's the way that's the way that most things work, but definitely the ticketing world is based on supply and demand. And when Messi announced that he was going to Intermiami, it immediately changed the prices of the tickets, and whether for home games as well as for road games where they're playing. So you're looking at to give you some actual statistics. His first home game that people are projecting to be the 21st, the ticket is $600 just to get in the building now.
Let me give you what I have, and then we can compare the notes, okay? Because I know this is the type of thing where now that we've led up to, I'm glad we led up to this topic, though, Jeff, toward the end. Because what I'm trying to do up to this point to build is give everybody more information about the generalities. And then I'm going to bring up an Arizona Coyotes question now that we're talking about this as well. So we're really heading in a really excellent direction. All right. Here's what I've got for Intermiami, and then we can compare the sources, whatever. Obviously we know the Intermiami is certainly is in the headlines for a lot of different reasons. We won't get into a lot, but we just know that they got Lionel Messi, and he'll be playing in a 19,000 seat venue called drvpinkstadium. Now, from what I heard, my sources indicate to me that Miami's July 21st match prior to his arrival, you're looking at $29. That's my number, okay? Now, the cheapest one after that is $477. So, again, those are the numbers I got, okay? I have a source. Now I'm going to talk about the numbers that you've been able to come up. But then the one thing that we're going to have the common denominator here is, you have any suggestions for the locals in town? Go ahead.
Okay. Sure. And those are fair numbers. I think you can still look right now, the two matches prior to his arrival date, or what's the proposed arrival date, the tickets are $40-$50 starting out, to go to those matches. They're relatively inexpensive. And then the first match you're looking at, obviously it's a dynamic number, because as tickets sell, the prices can go up, they can go down if they don't sell. So you're looking at $500-$600 just to get in the building. And that's pretty consistent. Then after that, there's been some matches show at $300 at home, $400, and then maybe a little below $300. The road games in LA and New York, not surprising, $500-$600 is what you're looking at least right now. As far as advice, very difficult. I mean, there is not a ton of inventory out there. If you're looking to try to pay a lot less, you can play a waiting game and see if the club releases seats. But because of the amount of demand to see Messi, and these places do only hold 19,000, the odds of the prices going down, this is not a situation where that's the case. The piece of advice I'll give to fans that are just in general on shopping for tickets is that when you're looking up something, if you see on our site that it says there's thousands of seats available, compare that to how many seats are in the entire arena.
Right.
And then look at also, is it a specific section that you're looking for, or do you not care? If you're flexible and you don't care where you sit, and there's tons of inventory available, and your event is in 2 months, and you continue to see tons of inventory available, then sure, you might be able to wait, and there's a good chance maybe that the prices will go down. But if you're the type of person that wants a very specific location, or the location you're looking for has very few seats available,
right,
the odds are that the prices are going to go up, or you're just not going to get a ticket. Or if there's only 1,000 seats available and the stadium holds 50,000, like Taylor Swift,
right,
and gradually seats are disappearing and the prices are staying at $1,500, it's not like they're all of a sudden going to drop to $300. It just unfortunately does not work that way. So you just kind of have to gauge it. The other thing you can do is candidly, I know we're a website. Most people are going to engage with us at ticketsmarter.com, but we do, I do make myself available, whether it's via LinkedIn or, I can be actually easily reached via Jeff at ticketsmarter.com.
Right.
I answer questions for people all of the time. And if I even need to direct them elsewhere to buy a ticket, to look at taking care of somebody long-term to potentially develop a customer, we'll do it. So I think you have another question.
Yeah, well, Will Vogel's on a roll. We're going to ride with this guy, Jeff, okay? He wants to talk about Intermiami. We're going to roll with him, okay? So the last question, with the recent signing of Lionel Messi going to MLS, have you guys sold a lot of tickets in the last 24 hours at all yourself, if you can say?
Yes, I can tell you that our exchange, I answered a question earlier for that same exact question, actually, so I know the answer well, is that, I think from the January 1st to January 4th, our exchange had sold under 50 tickets for Intermiami, under 50. And then since the 5th, it was over 3,000 tickets had been sold on the exchange. So with over 2,000 of them coming yesterday, because there was a leaked announcement of what was potentially happening. So some sales started taking place on the 6th, so on the 5th. And then on the 6th, and I think that will only grow, going forward. So it's very interesting. He's a huge draw. Half of my family is from Buenos Aires. My mom is from there. I have an uncle and a cousin that I emailed that after it happened, and we were very excited, obviously, from the World Cup, and they're huge soccer fans. And I emailed them about it, and they couldn't believe it. They said, it's probably bigger than Pele coming, when he came. And obviously the MLS is in a very good place right now, but adding Messi is really going to add a lot of international eyeballs. and just even bring a lot more credibility. The MLS, fights with the Premier League being considered to be a more superior league, although the MLS has great soccer. But I think getting Messi just really helps and maybe sends a message that the MLS is not necessarily some sort of stepchild to the Premier League.
No, but what the MLS is a good opportunity to land a lot of these international players on the twilight of their career so that they can put the MLS on the map. I can tell you that much that they will do. I'm not saying they're bad players and they're past their prime. I'm not doing that at all. So anybody who thinks that, no way. Okay. But let's not kid yourself. I think it was a Dragon Soul, you know who I'm talking about, the guy with the LA Galaxy. That guy came here and everybody knows that, LA cleaned up pretty well. Let's go back to Will again, though. He said, Mr. Goodman, I read your article on USA Today about Messi and Inter Miami. I totally agree. Well, so you got somebody out there who's researching it and reading your articles. There you go.
Thanks, Will. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, but let's talk about obviously the situation with Messi coming to Inter Miami. They have 19,000 seat stadium. You're right. It's one of the best facilities I've ever seen, which was considered a temporary stadium until they built their new one in Miami. I have no doubt in my mind that with Messi's appearance here, I'm not going to get into contract or any of that stuff. I did that last night on the Sports Exchange with my crew that night. But I think what his presence will do in South Florida is it will enable Inter Miami to build that stadium in Miami quicker, because now you have a real big drawing card if he's able to hang on for a few years until they get that venue built. Let me tell you, that Drive Pink Stadium, I've seen a couple of Miami Hurricane spring practices there, and I went to about half a dozen games. It's a beautiful building, but the thing is 19,100. Compared to the other 80-some thousand. But the one question I want to ask you is this. We're talking about this sort of thing, but do you ever run across a situation where fans buy the tickets and then they scalp them for more money to use it as a monetary opportunity? Is that allowable under this format? And I'm talking about scalpers.
Oh, very much so. I mean, I think that there are definitely fans out there that will buy tickets to resell them. I'm certain that there will be plenty of Inter Miami season ticket holders that will choose to sell some of their matches. They might be able to pay. And can you blame them if you can maybe pay for your entire season next year by selling a few games? I could see some fans that are going to be willing to do that. And of course, there'll be other fans many of the fans that would say, absolutely not. I will be there and I'm not giving up my ticket for anything. But there are people that will, resell the tickets. And there are definitely situations where, brokers, professional resellers will see a ticket at a certain price and they might think that's too low and try to arbitrage it. They'll buy it and then try to resell it for more money.
Yeah, well, just so you know, Inter Miami is supposed to build a stadium in Miami, so they will. It's not that they need it; it's just there's been a delay in getting it done. But I have a feeling this will expedite it. And we know there's scalpers going on all over the country. Just so you know, Jeff, Will lives in the metropolitan Charlotte area. So now, one of the things that really intrigues me is out in Arizona, another one of the places I used to live. The Arizona Coyotes have been a dysfunctional franchise since the minute they stepped in the desert. Okay, they have former Winnipeg Jets. They moved into the America West Arena, bad facility for hockey. You can only see one goalpost. I wrote a story, on him, and the PR guy and I had a falling out because he didn't like the angle that I took in terms of being a bet. And, I only covered 2 wings and never went back. I didn't want to deal with him anyhow because I thought the media where we were at was so high I could barely see what I was doing and all that. So I don't get into just that. I thought when I wrote that story that the Coyotes should have moved into the Arizona Veterans Memorial Coliseum, the original home of the Phoenix Suns. You could have at that point put 13,000 for hockey, which was used, I believe, for the Phoenix Roadrunners. So they built a stadium out in the West Arizona area in Glendale. That was a good stadium. It's a good stadium for hockey, but apparently their fan base is out in the East Valley. And what was interesting about it was the city of Scottsdale, Jeff, what they did is they demolished the mall thinking there was going to be a Coyote Stadium, and the deal fell through. But I've been there since, and they've redeveloped it, and it really looks fantastic. Now they're in a very bad situation. the arena that they were in, I call it Gila River Arena. I don't know what the sponsor, and I don't care. Kicked him out basically and said, "You get out of here. You guys are behind on this and that, and we don't want you." And that's a good venue. You could always support two venues in the metro area if one's downtown and one's in the suburbs. Now the Coyotes are in what they call the Mullet Arena, I believe, and that's on the campus of Arizona State University. Okay. Now I think that thing only holds 5,000 people. Gary Bettman has done his power to keep that organization there. We talk about Dry Peak Stadium holding 19,000, right? Well, let's just say on the high side, Jeff, we rounded up to 5,000 for an NHL game. You want to really talk about gouging people for tickets. What are your thoughts about the Phoenix or Arizona Coyotes and that thing called a stadium at 5,000, which is good for college hockey and for what Arizona State does? But now they're in a bind because they recently got turned down in Tempe and they could be forced to relocate, even though the Coyotes owners are trying feverishly to keep them there. But a 5,000 seat arena. Okay, Jeff, for an NHL team. All right. I've taken you to this point. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny actually that you mentioned that because I'm in Kansas City, and so we go to spring training quite a bit for the Royals, and actually we have partnerships with Goodyear and Peoria and Surprise with those stadiums and those Major League Baseball clubs. So we're there frequently each year, and I was there. Over a year ago, and I actually was at a Coyotes game at Gila River, and we were talking about this exact subject. And at the time, it was still approved, and they were going to be moving to. This is over a year ago. They were moving to Arizona State to the campus, but that was just a temporary solution. Right. Obviously, they do not want to have a long-term NHL team in a 5,000 seat arena. So I think because of the lack of demand. It definitely, I think, helped the pricing being in that size of arena because it's just so small for an NHL team. But obviously, they're in a tough spot right now. They need to figure out a solution. And you very well may be right. They may have to relocate. Actually, Kansas City has been talked about of whether or not, T-Mobile Center could support an NHL team. When Sprint Center, now T-Mobile Center was built, we were supposed to get an anchor tenant, whether it was going to be an NBA team or an NHL team, and we get an exhibition game each year. And we do have a lot of junior league hockey here. The question is whether or not we can support an NHL team. Kansas City holds a couple million, it has a couple million people. But hockey is not a cheap ticket. An NHL ticket is not cheap. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if we'll get an NBA team or an NHL team, but some people in Kansas City have spoken about the Coyotes maybe being moved here. So,
yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I'll tell you why. We did a segment on the Sports Exchange one time and had Kansas City as a possible destination. But the thing that's amazing is this. You ready for my knowledge? And I have a good following in the Kansas City, especially with the Kansas City Chiefs fan base. For a lot of you Kansas City people that support us, we thank you eternally. But you want to talk about how far back I go. I know Houston would be the logical choice, but I've been campaigning for Kansas City. And I'll tell you why, Jeff. Okay. You ever heard of the Kansas City Scouts?
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, if there's ever a city that deserves a second chance at NHL hockey, Kansas City, hands down. I don't care about the market size or not. What Kansas City does not have, and now Seattle's been smart enough to do it, they don't have a true winter sport for their fan base to follow. Seattle's got it right. The NHL really got it right there when they created the Seattle Kraken to go with the Seahawks as well as the Mariners. Kansas City is a diamond in the rough. I think the NHL should easily put Kansas City in there. You could have it. I believe there's no doubt in my mind that Kansas City will be a home run for the NHL if they ever get a team there. And again, the Kansas City Scouts, I know they were in the Kemper Arena. It wasn't really suited for hockey, but it was okay at the time. But again, everybody tearing stadiums down anyway. And From what I hear, though, isn't the Kemper Arena still around and they're using it for other minor events?
They are. You're very educated. They sold it, and it had sat there and done nothing, and then they sold it, and then they turned it into like a multi-purpose facility. And I'm not sure that's going the way they exactly wanted it to. So we'll see where that goes. It's down in the West Bottoms on the on the Kansas City, Kansas side. But to your point, yeah, T-Mobile Center is a really nice facility. They do extremely well, so it's very interesting. I'm guessing they would happily take an NHL team, but when you don't have an anchor tenant, then you don't have to worry about blocking off those dates. So I know T-Mobile Center does extremely well with all of the concerts they have, but I do think that with all the hockey surrounding and youth hockey, and that Kansas City would support an NHL team, especially if they were a winner. I mean, clearly Kansas City has shown, when the Royals, were in the World Series in 14 and 15 and won it in 15. I mean, we were packing the stadium, and when they won it in 88, when they won it in 85, and they were a great team from the mid 70s to the mid 80s, the attendance was there. Now, obviously, they're totally in a rebuilding situation, but we turn out for the Chiefs, and there's 80,000 a game. So it's a great market, obviously, and I'm partial to it because I grew up here. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
All right, we have another guy who obviously thinks the way I do, Jeremy Ballreich. He's actually my co-host on a lot of shows, and I'm looking forward to bringing you on as a guest. I'm told you, Jeff, I'm going to be bringing you on different shows throughout the network. This is our first rodeo, and he definitely feels that Kansas City would be better suited for hockey than Phoenix. So, the one advantage you have with the National Hockey League, though, compared to a lot of it, you have a salary cap. Okay, whereas baseball, it's an uneven playing field. NFL is good because obviously you have revenue sharing. So, but Jeremy's like I am, and we've talked about this subject at length. That Kansas City. Well, Jeremy, anything's better suited for hockey than Phoenix. Okay, but Kansas City for sure. Joe Ellis that was on earlier. He's on again. Thank you very much, Will, for being on. I like to post every comment because I get happy fingers at the mouse. Got to run, but Troy, Scott, and Jeff. So good stuff with Will. We appreciate his activity there. Let's go to JB Ellis, a guy you're going to get to know soon enough anyways. Always a great show. Well, we do the best we can. And yes, Jeremy, okay, we'll let you go ahead and have some fun. Hey, I'm participating. No kidding, okay. And the best part about you, Jeremy, that when you're on here with me, you get to control the chat room. But meanwhile, that's how it is when I'm out there doing the whole thing. But no, in all fairness, so I do believe that Kansas City should. And I know they have, the Big 12 tournament there. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is and that's when you have discussions about the NBA side of things. And obviously we had the Kings, and I can remember back when we had them up to 1984, before they were moved to Sacramento, but the ownership group moved them there. And that's the thing for NHL, the ownership group has to want to move them here, or you have to have an ownership group that is Kansas City based that wants to bring them here. Back to your question, yes, Kansas City is the College Basketball Hall of Fame is next door to T-Mobile Center. NCAA used to be headquartered here until they moved to Indianapolis for very favorable financial terms. But we are a huge mecca for college basketball because of KU being 45 minutes away and having such a dominant program for so many years. But because of the fact that Iowa State is just a few hours away, and Oklahoma at Oklahoma State, and Mizzou, who had been part of the Big 12, and the Big 8 for so long, we're just positioned in a very good location, only a couple hours from K-State, that college basketball and the Big 12 tournament has been here, other than one year that they took it down to Dallas, and it was no effect. Dallas is fantastic, but just for the tournament, it is served extremely well in Kansas City. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that KU, of course, has been such a strong program, and it has such a great following. And there's a lot of KU alumni that live in the metro area of Kansas City.
Well, I visited that campus in Lawrence. It's a great place. So one of the prettier campuses around. All right, let's go back to Jeremy for a minute. And I think this is interesting, because then I want to put you on the spot with another question. Okay. Last time Phoenix was almost good, Jeremy Roenick was still playing. That's right, Jeremy, and that's probably when we both had hair too. So, and but that's true. He was definitely featured there. But Wayne Gretzky couldn't win in Phoenix. Nobody's going to win there. They brought him in there to be the face, and he didn't do bad with what he had to work with for sure. Now I'm going to make this the hardest question you've had on the broadcast tonight. You ready?
I'm ready.
If you had to pick between what Kansas City would get first, an NBA or NHL team, which one would you venture to predict?
That they would get first?
Yeah, either
I
the
think
NBA or NHL. Which one would Kansas City get?
I think NHL, just from an opportunity standpoint, I think maybe that might exist first. Uh, Again, in both situations, I think the concern is obviously the size of our TV market is not as big, and the price for tickets is is higher. I'm not worried about the ticket prices really, because they can look at what we pay for Chiefs tickets, and it's a lot. And on the secondary market, what's paid for Chiefs tickets. So if you could bring an NBA or NHL team here that could relatively quickly develop, or people could see developing into being a good organization, it's a well-run organization, the city will support it 100%. And I think that from a sponsorship perspective, the dollars would be there, no question. There's plenty of very large companies in Kansas City to support either, and they just have to make the right TV deal. And for that matter, that's a totally different conversation than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, because now you're talking about streaming rights, and you're talking about Amazon, you're talking about YouTube, and you're talking about Apple TV. It's not like your traditional just RSNs and Bally. So I have a feeling that if somebody really wants to, Patrick Mahomes wants to bring an NHL or NBA team to Kansas City, that's who you need to do it. He could make it happen. He brought Whataburger to Kansas City. So, oh yeah, it wasn't coming to KC, but he said, I want Whataburger here, and it's here. So he'll, if he wants an NBA or NHL team, he's his wife Brittany is very involved, and he is involved as well. They're owners, part owners of the KC Current, so they get involved in other things. So maybe you can get Patrick to get NBA or NHL team here.
Okay, but now I'm going to hit you with a direct question that you did a great job talking over. NBA or NHL, which one would Kansas City get?
NHL.
Okay, that's what I want. And I'll tell you why.
NHL. Yeah, NHL.
I'll tell you why I agree with you. Okay, you ready? NHL has a lower salary cap, and it's a lot more affordable to be able to maintain your operating expense in terms of salary cap. The NBA is way out of Kansas City's market in terms of salary structure. And if anybody's worried about what can succeed there, just go to Green Bay, buddy, because I got news for you. Small markets can do well. Sacramento's a small market as well, too. So I've always been a firm believer in NHL. I don't think the NBA is going to go there. I think the NBA is really I think their next two targets really will be Las Vegas and Seattle. That's what I think.
I don't disagree. I mean, everybody wants to talk about Las Vegas. I think they're going to get they'll get it. They're going to get an MLB team. They're going to get the Oakland to move there, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get an NBA team as well.
Yeah, but Seattle's getting the Supersonics back.
Right.
So
you need to bring back Sean Kemp.
Yeah, right. Well, Jeremy Ballrick has a pretty interesting sense of humor. We're free to laugh or whatever. If the Pistons would have kept Dwayne Casey as coach, I would have said it an NBA team first. Laugh out loud. Well, all right, Jeremy. You definitely got our attention there. But I think it's good that we've had an opportunity to dive into a lot of different perspectives, Jeff, about what we're going to do, not only on this show, but as I told you, you and I expect us to do a lot more of these together, because I think it's something that the fans want. Us here at the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network, that they want. They want to know how we're going to be able to go out there and advise them to get tickets, and whether we key on some of your press releases that I'm going to look at from time to time and post up on our website, as well as on Twitter. I want to give the fans what they want, whether it's inside sports, outside sports, or whatever. It doesn't matter. I have other partners that are looking to pick your brain. I've just been the first one who's able to do it tonight first. But I'm glad that we were able to cover so much ground. And that's why I like to schedule these shows as solos on Thursday night, because, I feel like I don't leave any stones unturned. That's just how I've always done it in 43 years, Jeff, and I'm not going to change. I'm too old.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. As I said, I'm looking forward to Ticket Smarter and South Florida Tribune, a partnership, and that's really what I would love to be able to go out there and see develop. And right now, it looks like we're on the right track to do that. And we are partnered up with Sideline Sports, and they have a larger following too. But this is a good start. So with that said, I'm going to ask you one thing, and I think when you've done a show over an hour, okay, there's no question we've covered a lot of ground, but what are your final thoughts about what we've discussed, if you had to summarize what we were looking to accomplish tonight?
Yeah, I think that what fans want to or need to know is that Ticket Smarter is our goal is to make sure that fans can have an opportunity to attend live events, and we consider ourselves, all pun intended, smart place to find, tickets to live events, and we are passionate about what we do, and we want to be a resource for fans to be able to buy tickets. And if we're not the right source that you ultimately buy the tickets from, we understand, but we want to be considered, and we just want fans to be able to go to live events. Most events are not, the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals or the Stanley Cup Finals or the World Series that are sold, or Taylor Swift concerts. Most live events, keep in mind that 60, 70+% of events don't sell out, and they're just wanting fans to be able to go and enjoy a concert or a race or a baseball game or whatever it might be. So I think that's what we would like the takeaway to be, and I appreciate you taking the time, Scott, to chat with me today, and look forward to having conversations in the future.
No doubt. All right, Jeremy has a good question, so we're going to roll with it a little bit if the chat room stays lively but I want to make sure we get that out of the way. Are you going to sell tickets for Michigan-based teams and concerts as well?
Yes. So to clarify, when we say we sell tickets to over 125,000 live events, we sell tickets to almost anything you could think of that's other than, like, we're really not much into the museum side or planetarium side of things, of those kind of events, but anything live event based, we do. So if it's, you talk about Michigan, University of Michigan or Michigan State Spartans, we're going to sell. Or if you're talking about Little Caesars Arena, and whether it's a concert or it's going to see the Pistons or you name it, we will have inventory in almost every case, unless it's something that is not, but not being sold. But that's what you have to understand, is that you should definitely check out ticketsmarter.com for whatever you're looking at, whether it's a collegiate event, whether it's an NBA, MLB event, whether NFL, or whether you're going to a Lions game, or you want to go see Garth Brooks, or if you're popping over to New York to go see Broadway, check our site out, and you will see inventory available in most cases.
Yeah, the Detroit Tigers. Well, Jeremy, we're already in the process of working on the website, tying Jeff to what we're doing. That's something in the works. I just want to make sure that we got the show out first, and then we can make plans going forward. So there's this, Jeremy, and the rest of our fans out there, this is just the first step. The first one, getting Jeff in front of us, and as well as the national audience. So I'm going to read my information first, and then you're going to read yours one more time, and then we're going to call it a night, and then you and I are going to stay on a few more minutes so we can start plotting other stuff. Okay.
Thanks.
No problem. So I just want to let everybody know that the audio version of No Limits can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. That's what we're doing. And we're getting there. We're really getting close to our goal. Not close enough, but we're come a long way. We're going to go a lot further with guys like him helping us make the content as good as it can be. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. The chat room's been fantastic today. They're all active. And there's some people that will be in front of us in the future. So if you want to be a guest, send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, okay, call me at 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And I'm going to tell you something. The LinkedIn side is really beginning to pick up a little bit too. And I'm on a lot of social media, but LinkedIn to me has been a very key staple in terms of us building our business model in the sense of finding quality people. I have to filter out so many, Jeff, to get on here, but when I sense my instincts are telling me this guy's good, you got to get involved, and it's working out exceptionally well. So also my information on Twitter is at Tribune South. Website's www.southfloridatribune.com, and Candy Ebling does a marvelous job putting it all together. Without her, we're not doing anything, and I'd have to farm it out, and I got the best person on the planet in many, many ways, and I'm sure you'll get to know her as time goes on, especially when she loads the content and the broadcast up. And there's a lot of people, Jeff, that you and your company are going to meet as the relationship continues to progress. Now that I said a mouthful, okay, you don't have to say as much of a mouthful as I do because I'm a mouthful anyways. But why don't you let everybody know how they get a hold of you?
You bet. Jeff Goodman. You can reach me at jeff@ticketsmarter.com. You can find TicketSmarter, of course, on all the social handles. We're on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can find us at www.ticketsmarter.com. You can also check out our blog is www.ticketsmarter.com/blog, or if you go to ticketsmarter.com, scroll to the bottom, you can click the in the footer to get to our blog. We put out some great content, and on our site, if you're looking at any given particular artist, you can pull up and look at content there as well. So again, to find us, it's at www.ticketsmarter.com. That's the easiest way to get to us. And again, you can get to me at jeff@ticketsmarter.com. And I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you know what, Jeff, as I told you, it's a pleasure. And this is the type of thing that when you talk about things that as content creators that we have to really understand, the biggest thing to me, and I get so many ideas, and but when you find certain things that apply to the mass amount of people that are interested in this kind of thing, then you really have to give it a lot of deep thought. And I can tell, if I have one piece of advice that I can give to anybody out here watching the show, follow your instincts, because they're probably right 99% of the time. There's margin error, but follow your instincts. And, that's why I enjoy doing this, and I'll never stop until I'm no longer able to do it. But Jeff, you've been an absolutely, truly outstanding guest. And obviously you're going to become a great friend. I'm looking forward to getting to Kansas City at some point down the line. But we have a lot of work to do. We really do. And I'm excited about the partnership that the South Florida Tribune is looking to build with, obviously, ticketsmarter.com. And, you're going to meet a lot of people here. I'm just the first domino to drop, and I'm looking forward so that they can answer certain questions directly. But tonight, I think it was one of those nights where, there's a lot of good things going on in sports. We still have the NBA playoffs, and obviously you have the NHL playoffs. And of course, we hit on the latest topic with Lionel Messi. So, you talk about an opportunity that your show got scheduled to a point where we all of a sudden, I had to read what I had to do last night as we closed out the show is I had to go out there and redo part of the Sports Exchange last night because there were some big stories like Live Golf as well as the Messi thing. And on another episode, we'll talk about the other sports that we haven't gotten to, but I just felt it was necessary to embark on a lot of the major ones so that people can listen to this broadcast enough times to generate. And take your notepad out there, folks. There's a lot to digest here. So this concludes this edition of No Limits. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, especially in the chat room. And we look forward to having you on the next time, Jeff. And once again, folks, if you're following the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network, we're going to have the debut of the Professor and the Pupil with myself and Jeremy Ballrag. So that's going to be debuting this Sunday at around 10:30 Eastern Time. And I can tell you, this is a show I'm looking forward to. And of course, we'll have a regular lineup beginning next week. So anytime there's new shows, I always like to advance and let people know. So for the last time tonight, my name is Scott Morganroth here on No Limits, thanking Jeff Goodman for joining us. And you fans out there, without you, we have nothing to talk about, and there's no reason to do this. Jeff and I can do this over the phone, which we don't want to do. Okay, so have a great night, everybody, and we'll catch you on the next episode.